around 2:30 in the afternoon, local time there, they got a call about an active shooter. This person described the active shooter as someone wearing body armor, saying that they were in the Hart building. And so at that time, within seconds, they say 20 officers responded, and they immediately started going floor to floor, checking for anyone, perhaps with injuries, any victims or any shooter at all. And at this point, they have found nothing. Still, there is a shelter in place in effect in and around those Senate buildings as this investigation continues. Now, I want to bring in our contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett, along with our correspondents that are there on the scene, Aaron Katersky and Jay O'Brien. And Aaron, we'll start with you here. They stopped short of calling this a false alarm, but they said right now at this point they have no confirmation of an active shooter. They also said, Aaron, they've tried calling that number back, the person that placed this initial call, but it's sort of bouncing back to them. What do you know about that?
They're trying right now to trace the origin of the call that triggered the evacuation of the Senate side here on Capitol Hill. All three Senate office buildings have now been searched floor to floor by some 200 Capitol Police officers who the chief said have been training for an episode like this. They allowed people to leave. They just wouldn't allow anybody in. But all three buildings have now been cleared. Kano, while they stopped short of calling this a false alarm, at this point, the chief said that phone call does appear to have been a bogus call. So they're going to want to try and run it down, see if they can figure out the origin. Was this a case of swatting? But the caller did not report hearing any gunshots, but simply said flatly, according to the chief, that there was an active shooter and gave a description of somebody who the caller said was in the Hart Senate office building. Nothing has been found. There's been no evidence any shots were actually fired. At one point, someone was seen being taken out on a stretcher. Police sources tell ABC News that person seems to have suffered emotional distress.
All right, Aaron, and Jay, to you on that note, it's clear that this caused a ripple effect. Authorities are saying that they also were getting additional calls from people who had heard about this active shooter and were calling them. So, Jay, what did you witness there as people were rushing out of the building?
Well, it certainly put the Capitol complex on edge, Kana. They had to clear all three of those office buildings, as you heard the chief and Aaron say. And a lot of those staff members for different lawmakers, they were gathered in a park just up the street from here. This grouping of people is where the chief gave his press conference earlier. As you head up the street there, you get toward the first of the Senate office buildings, which is the Russell office building. And a park right off of the Russell office building is where a lot of staff members gathered after they evacuated that building. I spoke with several who recount Capitol Police coming to them saying get out of the building. As they ran out of the building, there were other Capitol Police there, some of them heavily armed, because as the chief says, this is a scenario that the Capitol Police prepare for often. And when you talk about the Capitol complex and you talk about moments of frightened terror, you have to think back to January 6th, the number of staffers who still have trauma from that day, who when something like this arises, go right back to that trauma. I've heard from a number of staffers who still seek mental health support after that day, and certainly instances like this do not help them in their long run.
Of course, this happening on the heels of this third indictment for former President Donald Trump as well. Also want to mention here, this law enforcement response was instantaneous. They said they had 20 officers right away. That changed now to 200 officers going floor to floor. Law enforcement saying they have cleared the three Senate buildings, yet this shelter in place remains in effect. And Brad Garrett, to you, they talked about their training for this multiple times. They said they are ready for a response like this.
So that's the key, going room to room, floor to floor, to make sure that the building is clear. The problem with these types of threats where someone makes allegedly a 911 call, is it real, is it not real? Even if they give you specifics, like Aaron referred to, like swatting calls, is this some version of that? Might well be. Or it just may have been somebody wanting to inflict fear. But the point being, if you're law enforcement, even if you think it's not real, you have to treat it like it's real, which, 200 is a lot of people to pull together quickly. But if you're trained to do it and you have the manpower available, it looks like they knocked it out fairly quickly. Those three buildings are really big.
Right, and they said this investigation is ongoing. Law enforcement also touching on the fact that there is screening, heavy screening at all of the entrances of these buildings. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.